Okay, welcome back to part 2 of our special New Universe Season 1 recap, covering issues 1 through 6. All right, so we've covered the first 6 issues of Kickers Incorporated. It's also our website, kickersinc.com. Go check it out.
I can only guess that this is on the lower end of Marvel's IP if I could afford to get that domain name so cheap. So
You don't think the mouse is going to come after us soon?
I don't worry about it too much now. I think like DP7 is also maybe like a soccer team in Europe or something. So it's like they'll give you that domain for like $100,000 or euro. But yeah.
Maybe we can get sponsored by the soccer team.
I wonder what might keep doing these hashtags. Like, what does he keep showing up?
Nice. But yeah, so Kickers Inc. That's our football squad. So we met Mr. Magnificent, who was already a star football player, but he was exposed to the white event and his shifty brothers cheating machine. It's supposed to give
It's
him an
like
edge.
steroids, but it's legal.
Right, because they haven't banned it yet. But I like it because it's not to get too far ahead of the recap, but yeah, so the white event definitely impacts him, and then he gets into this machine, which seems like it activates the power. Like as he's in it and he throws the switch, something happens, he glows, he gets the super strength. In my head, it's not quite so simple. Like it could very well be coincidence, because I'm skeptical of whether my maybe second favorite character, Steve Magniconti's machine, actually ever was supposed to do anything, or if it was just a total scam. I think it's funnier if it's a total scam. But yeah, so he gets these powers. His brother unfortunately dies to some loan shark goons, and they form Kickers Inc. Right? This crazy idea that all right, so I'm going to do some good with these powers and solve people's problems. Right? That could include like, which government agencies should you send your forms to? Like the original iteration of Kickers Inc. was, they'll help anybody with anything. But then if something weird or like unusual or something that, you can't just call the police for happens, then Kickers Inc. will spring into action. So he joins with his non-powered teammates and his wife to go and have some fun and solve some problems. There was a robot terrorizing an older woman's rose garden, which turned out to be terrorists with some fancy gear. The hand, right?
Fist.
The fist. Oh, the hand is the Marvel one.
No. Yeah,
totally
they're
unrelated to the hand.
Yeah, Fist. We forgot about when Fist came back and it was leaving them like crank calls.
So he fought sort of the Fist's leader and kind of punched him in the jaw and like broke his jaw, and we got a like fleeing terrorist leader, kind of like menacingly, like you think he's going to come back and cause problems, and then when we eventually hear from him again, like they're leaving pranks in his football locker, and giving him prank phone calls basically, which was, I think, perhaps unintentionally hilarious.
We'll see if they come back, but it's Middle Eastern terrorist is a common villain type. We see several examples of already in the new universe, and so between Russians and Middle Eastern terrorists, you'll feel like all those old cliches are new again.
Yeah, and evil, maybe not governmental organizations, right? Like that's the trifecta of the new universe villainy.
Governmental slash like industrial military complex. There's a lot of like business guys are also sketchy. So
the
yeah,
club, the clinic, these things where it could either be a health spa or, some rich, horrible dude who's going to hire mercenaries to kill you. One of the two.
yeah,
Maybe in the case of Steelhawk, a little bit of both.
indeed.
But yeah, recap.
Yeah, we also had a good college professor gone bad.
Yeah, a chemist, no less.
Yeah, and it actually made sense. They didn't just pull that out of thin air that like the guy was doing sketchy uh, hallucinogenic compound testing on unsuspecting teenagers. That was probably done all the time in the 60s now that I think about it.
Especially if you lose funding. So that can drive the best scientists to crazy town. Yeah, that again, some strange comic stories that end up being actually kind of fun. There was a crossover with DP7 where the kickers essentially were kind of hired by Stephanie from DP7's kids, to find her, and then they ended up trying to help, but it didn't turn out so well.
Yeah, they tried. That was their first actual paranormal they were exposed to was DP7, and at first they were kind of put off by it, and then they ended up sort of turned around by the clinic and get in a fight. So it was a good issue of Kickers Inc. It was also by the same creative team as the regular DP7 crew. So
yeah, there was definitely a DP7 issue.
But for like a guy, it still cracks me up. Like his own wife is saying, like, Jack, you're 5 or 6 times stronger than a normal person and bulletproof. And he's like, yeah, but these people are weird, man.
They're the real weirdos.
I'm perfectly normal. So yeah, we get a little bit of like the attitude of the world, I think, through Jack and that.
Yeah, but he's a cocky football player guy, right? And essentially,
kind of yeah. I mean, now you can picture like a Tom Brady in that role and be like, yeah, I can see him kind of charming everyone or like rolling over everything and just whatever you say, man. That's cool.
That almost could have been a nice addition to his sort of moral question. But like what if he were like an aging football star who has won it all, but he's starting to slip, right? And then he gains this power, which puts him into the stratosphere. So of course he doesn't want to give it up, or he doesn't want to give up football, but still kind of questionable. Because like I think I made the original comparisons to like Captain America, but having a soldier sort of gain the ability to really fight for his country and that kind of thing, it's very different for Steve Rogers is very different from Jack Magnaconti, who has got a bit more of a morally gray, selfish streak.
Yeah, but I mean, we recognize it probably more now than you would have at the time. But like, celebrity is its own superpower in a way, and I don't know, they sort of use it sometimes, but it's he'll like the cops will like form a motorcade to get him through traffic quickly or something. It's like, he's got an edge.
And that essentially was part of the issue 6, where we got introduced that there's sort of conflict between the owner of the football team and the coach, who maybe wants to get rid of Mr. Magnificent. He also, rescued people on an airplane from a hijacker, but in doing so, put his powers sort of on display a little bit. And now there's some investigators who are kind of on his case. In the end, they showed them starting to piece together what really happened, and a bullet bounced off of him, and a kid saw it essentially. Conflict with the team, and the coach wants to get rid of him, and conflict with the police perhaps in the future, or maybe they'll just forget about all those things and just write some other stories. We don't know.
It's always an open question. I mean, maybe it's a good opportunity for them, because if you're exposed as having powers, but you're exposed when you're doing something heroic. That's really like the key between like the Marvel universe and the new universe. Is all these people with powers are scared and sort of hiding them or running or being hunted. And there's no like open superheroes to like sort of, oh, this guy runs around and solves crime. I could do that too, or. So it leads them into these moral questions. And
So one thing that I actually found out very recently, what I thought was very interesting, was um, so as far as the book goes, by issue 6, its creator Tom DeFalco is off the book, not writing or plotting or anything. But the story goes from Tom himself that he had the idea for this book, but then it kind of got roped in as a new universe book. And so the original idea was, a football players team, but it sounded more like kind of like crazy adventures, like they maybe have a supercar and go out and solve problems. And then the football thing was just kind of how they bonded as a team. Supposedly Jim Shooter loved it and like, all right, let's do a football book for the new universe. And then kind of like, oh well, wait, like this is supposed to be a really realistic book, right? So none of that crazy adventure stuff, more about um, you know dealing with powers and a grounded scientific universe kind of thing. And it didn't sound like that really Tom DeFalco wanted to do that, but he kind of felt like he had to. And so there's a little conflict between what the book was supposed to be and then the new universe version of it. um, and I think thinking back, there's a piece in one of the Kickers Inc. episodes where I think Suicide is talking and he's like, why can't we go back on those fun adventures like the robot and the rose garden kind of stuff? And like in my head, that's like DeFalco, like, why can't we do more of these stories?
yeah, I mean, Kickers really starts off Herb Trimpe doing a strong Jack Kirby impression. And they literally have like their minor character, the coach, be Coach Kirby.
Yeah.
So I think originally it was like, imagine what Kirby could have done in like 65 and just going off the, crazy adventures. You gotta go around the world. And, I mean, those things had no filter at all. And I mean, even the 80s, that was kind of old fashioned, but you can imagine it would be fun. I don't know.
Could be, yeah.
But, it's like a lot of things, you make a compromise. And Kickers Inc., I don't know. There's always something sort of unsatisfying about how they worked out, like always hiding Jack's powers and the sort of moral dilemma that comes from that when it wasn't really necessary. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's like I'm pretty sure the first book, like the first issue, even had like a lot of rewrites, um, and like sort of changes in the story. Even I think down to like one of my favorite lines, in talking about Steve Magniconti and his machine, like I think his line where like it was just supposed to buzz, was like a fix, right? So
yeah, did somewhere.
No idea what, where that was originally supposed to be headed, kind of thing, but it added that uncertainty in such a way that it just makes it like super interesting to me. Like,
I should go back and see if we see Steve's dead body, because remember that G.I. Joe movie where like they were gonna kill Duke or someone,
yeah.
And then they like, oh no, he's just in a coma, and they don't like cut back to him at all. And it's like, obviously they just changed some of the voiceovers.
Yeah, I think that might actually be the case, because I think I tried to find the panel where he died and it's very unclear.
Yeah. Well, let's assume that Steve's brother, or Jack's brother Steve, died and things more or less happened. But yeah, the connection to the white event is again a little tenuous, but we'll sort of shrug it off and go with it. So where we've got now, if they stick with this creative team or at least editorial direction, should be at least fun to go along with. It's not like over the top Kirby fun, but it's got several elements and characters we kind of enjoy.
Yeah, I think I might be...
Are just...
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say the teammates do have sort of distinct, sort of over the top personalities. We're not like hearing about their childhood, but you can always sort of see their like boastful, athletic, pro athlete kind of positive attitude all the time.
Yeah, I never know what to expect in the next issue of Kickers Inc. And it can go quite all over the place. I think I've built the mythology of Steve Magnaconti in my head like more than anyone in the existence probably, but he doesn't really do much, but I just love the idea of it.
What if Steve had the power and we'll take over Jack's job on the football team? Because
well, now that you've said that, maybe his death is a little mysteriously off panel kind of stuff. Maybe that leaves the door open for my fan fiction where he teams up with like Big Bridget from Spitfire in the prison and the exploding pimple guy.
I was using Big Bridget in my Chained Heat fan fiction. Sorry, dude. Yeah, that article you pointed out about DeFalco and Kickers Inc. The term they were using was or looking for was exquisite corpse. That's when you have like a story and like one person starts it for a paragraph and they give it to someone else and it can just go anywhere. That's probably like what it feels like sometime. But
okay.
Should I give that a grade?
Whose turn is it to go first? I forget.
I'm wondering if I should. Yeah, I'll give it a B minus just for its sort of off consistent quality. But in the range of things I'm enjoying. So
yeah, I think I have the hardest time grading this one out of all because it's kind of fun and interesting and there's little tidbits where it isn't necessarily like a great comic and there's definitely some inconsistencies. So yeah, I think compared to I'll go with just straight B, I think. Just maybe a little biased of my enjoyment of it. Definitely not as good as Sci-Force, but I guess it's around my enjoyment level of Spitfire and such. So
yeah, fair enough.
I will differentiate slightly from you this time.
Let's see. Differentiating sounds like war, and war sounds like Mark Hazzard Merc. Yeah, that's not really a great segue either. So Mark Hazzard is a Vietnam veteran, which in 1986 he's only 42 years old. He's currently a mercenary, a soldier of fortune, and so his job is to go around engaging in real combat. So it's more like a war comic at the time. Those were down to maybe Sergeant Rock was still running. It's not very tied into the rest of the new universe at all because there's no white event, there's no powers, there's no paranormals. It's all just gritty mano a mano type action. And so for realism, it's really the top. I mean, sometimes it's, a little cinematic realism, but it's not like it's not even the Punisher, it's pretty toned down from there.
Yeah, it's grounded to a degree.
So he's a guy who lives back in New York City in a nice apartment, but he's estranged from his ex-wife and the son who live in Brooklyn or something. So the first issue starts off with him showing his mercenary skills and how he goes about that line of work with a something sort of inspired by Philippine Revolution against Ferdinand Marcos, I guess, in the 80s. And when he gets back home, he's trying to reconnect with his son and possibly ex-wife. I think there's still some connection there, even though she's remarried. He goes to a little league game that his son's playing at, and he's attacked by foreign agents. This is a good. This is one of our books that always has a kill count. What was the highest? 10 last issue.
I think 9.
Oh, okay. So it's
Oh,
not
yeah,
like
10. No, 10 is right.
so it's not like hundreds of people killed, but in a comic book world in the last couple of decades where killing was the absolutely never ever ever done, it's noticeably different.
It's not really a lot of actual death in like Captain
So
America or something
the
in 1986.
so
It's not
after
too much.
the Little League massacre, he he's the cops want him to stay put, but he skips town to work on a job down in Philadelphia, protecting an Israeli politician from, yes, Middle Eastern terrorists. Um, then when he comes back after more exciting action, he's threatened by a government agent to maybe work for them. And he sort of offers him this, like, you can go around and be our guy cleaning up people that, it's all very like sketchy stuff. And Mark has sort of a conscience that he's not going to, um, he's not like a soldier who will do anything he's told. So um, I don't know if you'd call it a
If
hard.
it's in the contract.
So he got attacked by more terrorists in New York, and they sort of left things up in the air whether he was going to going to go to jail or his lawyer was going to be able to get him out or what. And then we had a creative change, and suddenly Mark was helping one of his old friends get his sister back from a biker gang where she'd either been kidnapped or fallen in love with the biker leader. And after that, the last issue was a bit
Bad.
yeah, disappointing with Mark going on a business trip to the middle of Europe and fighting Nazis, which sure always sounds like fun, but not every time, I guess. So he's got suddenly some issues with his old teammates, Treetop and Mal, these guys who were always with them before, and a woman who showed up in the last couple of issues named Priestess seems to be increasing her role in the book. And I don't know, the writer Doug Murray had just started on Marvel's The Nam, the story of the Vietnam War, and he was pretty well regarded. So he's kind of a guy from the war comic background. I'm not sure if he's just sort of taking a while getting his footing here, but we're not quite sure. But I think he's going to be on there for a while, so we'll see where it goes. Mark Hazzard Merc started off pretty strong. Those first 2 or 3 issues were pretty enjoyable. And then they were written by Peter David, I should say. The last couple written by Doug Murray, we've been like, okay, let's see where this goes. So that's about where we're at with that.
Crossing our fingers. Yeah, it's a little sad. I think like if we had a long or even like a a mini series sized run of just Peter David and like Gray Morrow, like the original writer art team kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it could have been a really strong book.
I mean,
It
even,
could,
yeah, bi-monthly maybe, so Morrow would have time to do it. Yeah.
but
Not necessarily,
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, that's really a thing you could say about a couple of the new universe is that, it would have worked well as a mini, maybe, but if they didn't have the ideas to keep it going, it felt like they were trying too hard sometimes to keep it going in a new direction. So,
yeah, it may very well have benefited from like not trying to stay on schedule so much.
right, right. So, yeah, the new universe started with all these books at once, and versus the original Marvel universe started with Fantastic Four, and then like 3 or 4 months later, the Hulk, I think, and it was like a year before Spider-Man and a couple other things come up. So by the time they get to like 8 strong titles, that's like 3 years in. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I know they wanted to make a big splash, but I don't know, man. Yeah. Sort of when they lost the money, the funding for that, scaling back their expectations might have been a wiser move. I don't know.
true. But then we wouldn't have gotten it all, probably, right? Like if you had scaled back budget and scaled back expectations, then I mean, it may have just kind of launched, fizzled, and faded with only one or two books, Like if it was only
Yeah,
Star Brand,
I was
like you're not going to remember this whole universe.
yeah, I was trying to think of like how that would what would like the sweet spot would be because you one book is just one book. Two maybe like 3 to 4, you're definitely have a range, and then you could do those like one coming out every week. So you got sort of a more consistent newsstand presence. I don't know.
Yeah, it works. The new universe works for me in its sort of all over the place ishness, right? Like some people will criticize Mark Hazard because it doesn't really. I mean, it could very well just not be in the new universe because there's no paranormals yet and no white event.
Mhm.
But I kind of like that. I like that it's exploring a corner the of 1986 that it's not flush with weirdos with powers everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, truly, if you want, if you wanted a sort of alternate universe, then yeah, by all means, they did try to have genre diversity, and that's really, I think, undercounted. A lot of people are like, well, I want to have, 8 books and they're all superhero team books or something. And you're like, having a war book and a solo title and a team book and all, it's more organic. It feels good. I don't know. I think there was,
Yeah, like
go ahead.
the Image Universe launch. I think it kind of passed me by when it happened. I wasn't like a jumping into it kind of deal, but looking back on it, it's like edgy superhero, another edgy superhero, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
just
I don't, to this day, I don't know. Wildcats from Youngblood from, uh, what was the Top Cow one? I forget. Sylvester's Cyberforce.
darkness. I don't know. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Mark Hazard, uh, I will be generous and give it a B minus. I don't know. I think.
I did the math on this one while you were talking. I broke out my calculator.
Okay.
Right. So like first two I give an A. Next two I'd give like a B. And then the last couple I would be kind and give a C, which pretty much averages out to be I think I gave actually the second two a B plus and did the math and it's 85.33. So
Oh no.
that's a B for me.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a tale of many books. So
Yeah.
we
Peter David's
been
Mark Hazzard Merc would be a title I would recommend to people.
grab the first 3 or 4 issues without hesitation.
I mean,
And then if you want to, read the rest.
yeah.
And maybe it'll get good, but we'll let you know and just listen to the podcast.
Yeah, we'll stick with it. Don't worry. We're not dropping anything. Things are 75 cents a pop. Come on, man.
But I think the price does go up at some point, doesn't it?
They get nicer printing at some point. Maybe that's the phase 3 or 4.
Yeah. All right. Should we talk justice?
That's what I care the most about.
More than anything. See, that was a good transition.
Yeah, okay, that works.
As we work together on it. Okay. So, first 6 issues of Justice. Justice appears out of nowhere in a crappy part of New York City, Alphabet City, perhaps, and immediately starts judging violent drug dealers. By judging, we mean reading their aura, showing that it's evil, and killing them. Really brutally, just vaporizing them with his powers. So he follows along, essentially, works his way up the criminal gangs to finding their leaders. And in doing so, runs into undercover FBI agent Becky Chambers. Accidentally / on purpose vaporizes her undercover partner, which is kind of a fun moment in the first issue, right?
Yeah.
So basically, she arrests him, but ends up, after being attacked by sort of mysterious goons from space, kind of following him as he escapes. Ropes in a cab driver, Artie, who we always think is going to disappear, but keeps popping back up. As he's just out pursuing justice. So yeah, he's found his way up to the top of the chain in the drug gangs and realized that that actually has some connections to his world, because as it turns out, Justice is an alien who looks just like us, but has been mysteriously teleported to Earth. So yeah,
let's say that it seems he has evidence to support that story, because you start seeing these monsters attacking him and the other characters. So it's
and through the course of the book, eventually we learn more. Every once in a while we'll learn sort of more about his world. But basically, he needs to drive to California, where the big bad is. On the road trip, there's an issue where essentially he stops at a diner, and it's kind of fun and cute until one of the evil powered underlings of the big boss basically slaughters everyone at the diner, including Hoyt Pittman, one of our fun side characters who didn't last very long.
Hoyt was one of these characters that if you read the first articles about the new universe, they're like, and we'll also meet Hoyt Pittman. He'll be a hard-nosed FBI agent. He'll be around for a while, keeping an eye on justice. And you're like, 2 issues later, ouch.
Yeah, you made the mistake of going to the bathroom.
The most relatable thing.
That kind of bonds Justice with Becky Chambers as they eventually go to LA, and then Mexico, and basically fight evil wizards.
Right? Yeah, I don't know what to call them except wizards. The people who were from Justice's world have access to evil magic. They funnel evil energy back home so that their friends can fight Justice's people. And they do magic stuff here to some degree or another.
So Justice back home in his world is in love with sort of a princess or a queen.
I think queen,
right? Who has a king. But then also on Earth in love with Becky Chambers, But when he confronts the villain, these evil wizards, Dad, which is like the worst name ever for your ultimate villain, just calling him Dad. But essentially, then he starts getting mixed up and sort of teleported back and forth between his world or dimension and ours. And then eventually losing Becky Chambers to his original world. So the bad guy escapes, takes Becky with him. Justice is left kind of listless back home, reunites with Artie, but then rediscovers his purpose as he kind of rescues, but then also loses a little girl in issue 6, which was quite good. So yeah, as it stands now, he's kind of, back and motivated again, but again, perhaps not sure how to or can't follow up and rescue Becky, but is going back to pursue justice again. Your favorite thing.
That's what I love from him. Justice. Yeah, his yeah, it's a bit more to buy into because it's not like he's developed a superpower. The White Event connection is that they were trying to kill him in his world, and at that same moment, the White Event happened, and so instead of dying, he woke up here. That's the ostensible connection now, at least as we have it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've Justice himself, the character, I always like. He has this sort of hard-nosed, like all business attitude, but he's also very like innocent and man out of place because he's from another world. So he'll be, judging these like goons in one panel and then like trying to figure out how to make a frozen dinner in the next. It's a fun mix of things. I don't know.
Yeah, I would agree. It's definitely if it was just tough guy, vaporizing, edgy, Judge Dredd kind of stuff, right? Like it wouldn't work as well.
Right.
And I was definitely skeptical initially of the, almost like Masters of the Universe He-Man kind of like world that he came from.
Mm-hmm. Seems to have like 5 people in it, but okay, yeah.
Yeah. But when he's on Earth causing and solving problems, that's usually a good thing for the book.
Yeah, it's I guess I'll throw it out now. A lot of people complain about the rules of the new universe being there shouldn't be any aliens and there shouldn't be any magic, and Justice is kind of both.
Yeah.
So to me, I'm okay with that in the sense that it's not like magic, like anything can happen. It's more like a paranormal power that he's using. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So he's got
I agree.
a sword and a shield, and he judges people. He reads their auras, but he's not just sort of granting wishes or some whatever. So
yeah, and I don't feel like they have to stick really hard to like some central concept, right? Like,
yeah,
if every book had an alien in it, that would defeat the purpose.
Right.
If one book does, and then you deal with it well, and then again, like the world's not being taken over, it's not totally out there kind of stuff. It's really him kind of dealing with the world, and then also some bad guys from his home planet per se. Like, yeah, I like it. It doesn't bother me.
Yeah, I mean it adds like a level of challenge to him that I don't know if any of the others have. Maybe DP7. But like, yeah, the he's fighting, these guys who are like 5 steps ahead of him most of the time, and he doesn't even know what's going on half the time, but he's still like in their face. Yeah, I guess there's like, to me, like the White Event being the sort of division between our world and this new world order, we'll call it. So when you say there's no like, magic, I'm okay with like magic starting at that point or having sort of a limited amount of it that, people can access.
Right. Or just confusing or having people wonder if these new powers are magic,
Yeah. I mean, it's it's not a world changing kind of magic. It's at least not our world, apparently. But I mean, there's like a role playing game called Shadowrun where like I don't know, for some reason something changes and then like dragons and elves and stuff come back into the modern world. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so, white event, and then this happens, and now these powers or something are more accessible than they were before. It's as rational, I think, as just a straight superhero powers are science fiction, and I don't know.
Yeah, we don't have to be super sticklers.
Yeah, we're
If
not
it
too
works, it
worried about
works.
it. So let's see. Overall rating.
You want me to go first this time?
Should I? I'll say B plus. Sometimes it feels A minus, but I'll play it safe.
Play it safe. Yeah, I was A minus. I think it's one I generally enjoy the most.
Nice. So let's see. Then our final comic is DP7. DP being displaced paranormals was the story of 7 random people who started developing new powers after the white event happened. They don't really recognize that as the inciting event, but most of them start seeing something different going on in their bodies or expressing some weird power. And they go to a research clinic, the clinic, somewhere in Wisconsin. And they go into like a therapy group with several others, and that's the team of 7 forms. They discover that this clinic has some sinister plans and is maybe mind controlling them in their sleep. So they escape and go on the run. The first 3 issues were they're fending off attacks from 3 paranormals who are working for the clinic. We later found those were like an earlier test subject group. But there's several of them, and they can kind of work together, even though they weren't trained in like a danger room or anything. But they have a good variety of powers. Some of them are pretty weird, and they managed to fend off the clinic trying to grab them and take them back. While they're on the road, they have some adventure, like solving a local mystery of a thing called the Wampus, which people get. You wander into a small town, and everyone looks at you suspiciously because there's something weird going on. Turns out it's not them; it's something else. But they solve it and ride off into the sunset. They tried curing themselves by going to an exorcist. That did not work. And they had that crossover with the Kickers Inc. One of the characters is a young housewife who very much misses her children. Her it's still her husband, is very much put off by her powers. So there's sort of desire to get rid of their powers and get back to normal life in most of them. A couple of them are enjoying them, and a couple of them just find it inconvenient, So in the last couple of issues, the youngest member is sort of a teen runaway type that Andy loves so much. Storms off, and he gets in trouble. big fight using his powers in public. So we'll see where that goes. The team was going to split up into like smaller groups to go try to grab Stephanie's kids themselves, and some of them looking for the young guys. And there's also more mercenaries or bounty hunters sent by the clinic that we know. So things are heating up over there.
You're getting scorching.
It's one of the few books that someone suggested they have like code names, but they never use them. So, yeah, the team is quite interesting. Going behind the scenes a bit, I know I saw an interview with Gruenwald, the writer, that he was purposefully trying to think of like different kinds of teams. Like if a normal team, everyone's the same age, these guys are all over from like 66 to 15. They're a very unlike any other superhero team book that you've read before. And that was part of his plan from the beginning, I think.
Yeah, and it works pretty well, I'd say, too.
Yeah, Gruenwald is a good writer, and he's paired up with Paul Ryan. And I'd forgotten to mention they were started together on Squadron Supreme a year or two before this, which is also a great limited series if you ever get a chance. They're the most consistent team and a very strong one all the way through. The writing and art are just everything I'd want from a book.
Yeah, that's very much the case. Right? So like it's sort of a unique look at the a world with superpowers with a very unique bunch of people. It doesn't follow any superhero tropes or any team comic book tropes, and it does a nice job with them.
Oh, they're arguing, but surely they'll get back together at the end of it. No, it's like storming off. Who knows if we'll see him again? Yeah. It's the characters are all like I say, from all walks of life, different ethnicities, ages. So you'll have like the character you expect to be the leader is not really the leader. If anyone is, I'm not sure. Because people will argue with each other constantly, and they're free people. They will storm off rather than take an order from there's no Professor X directing everyone.
So yeah, one of the things I like about DP7, which is maybe a little incongruous with the rest of the new universe, but it doesn't bother me, is just like their powers are handled in kind of a grounded, realistic way, in a way, right? So, David Landers becomes super strong, right? But he's not just magically super strong. And like he grows and gets super muscly, and he loses his hair like he's a steroid freak kind of thing. Like, so it's like the very, if you were gonna get super strong, like how would that happen, right? Like, yeah, I mean, you can't be small, right? You wouldn't have enough mass. You if you're going to be really strong, like that just has to mean more muscles, right?
Yeah. There's no like, I don't know, the official handbook of Marvel would have all these. Like, how does Bruce Banner become the Hulk when the Hulk is like 500 pounds heavier? So yeah, David Landers just grows over a couple weeks, I guess, and was really horrified to see his body changing like that. But and then we have the other character who's a speed guy and who's just constantly in motion. He cannot sit still. So some of those work out well as sort of thinking through how it would look, how it would really work.
Yeah, I think in the last issue, like he held a soda can and it just shook it up instantly and sprayed all over the place, and everyone harassed him. It's like, you can't do that. You have to let someone else open it for you.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah.
But yeah, we spend a lot of the early escape from the clinic, like with him trying to find food.
That's right. He's stealing food all the time, and at least one or two of the other characters feels bad about it. But
Yeah, and he does too. But yeah, what are you gonna do about it? Like, you're just gonna
yeah,
die? Or like, do you go to jail? Do you go back to the clinic, which is trying to brainwash you? Like, what choice have you got at that point?
yeah, indeed. Yeah, the clinic is a good like villain group. There's like one guy who's definitely the leader, and then presumably, it's not impossible that there's people there that would be on their side if they went back. I don't know. So we'll see where this is going, but we've got more mercenaries. I don't know if they have powers yet either.
Yeah, they're mysterious still.
Still, and that's what we've got coming up. It for DP. Yeah. So let's see. A rating?
Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go first?
Well, it's no secret. It's an easy A for me.
Easy A. I'm going A minus.
Okay. Let's hear you justify that.
A minus is a perfectly good grade. Yeah, I think it's stable, like it's well done. Me, I think Starbrand's a little over the top better just because it's got a little more like kind of style and flash to it, and you know the romance and the love interest and the explosions, and DP7 is really grounded and well done and well drawn, and like everything about it is good. But
I mean, those are two like strong examples of like a team book versus a solo book. And Starbrand is really unusual in that it's really from Ken's point of view. It's not like, um, it doesn't, there's not a third person omniscient viewpoint. It's really just focused on him. It's not really his like, me, let me, think about things, but you do sort of see some thought balloons with him, but not the other characters. And so DP7 definitely has a large cast, and they're all sort of bouncing back and forth. So you don't really get inside them as much, but you have that sort of different dynamic where you enjoy a crowd of contrasting but strong characterizations going.
yeah, and I think probably the most recent issue we covered was probably the best, with like some real emotional highs with Scuzz.
That's true.
Um,
It started off a bit slow, I will admit. The first couple of issues were like, okay, yeah. So
yeah,
but I'm on a high from that last issue or two, probably. Okay, fair enough. So let's see. Looking over all the things we've talked about. So there's Spitfire and Merc did not really interact with the white event. Justice is a little tenuous. Starbrand, it seems like there's a connection, but it hasn't been brought out yet. But the power that Ken is expressing, it's not a paranormality, we think, but it does seem to be related to the other events going on around him. So
right, he could potentially give it up.
Potentially, yeah. What I was thinking the other day is like if there's anyone who would be investigating like the white event or like be useful for Ken's looking at the Starbrand, the troubleshooters who actually he met already.
Ah,
He grabs like a microscope off a kid's shelf to look at his clothes to see if it's like, people at MIT. Come on, man. So yeah, if there's like I've been thinking like the troubleshooters should have been the people investigating some of this stuff. They don't have powers themselves, but they could be out there sort of looking into what's going on.
Yeah, that's very true. Like,
they're the only like scientists we have, I'm afraid.
Yeah, we could be running some tests and doing better than Myron at least.
Yeah, Myron's not. I mean, he's a psychiatrist or something. And
questionable psychiatrist.
I was gonna say a couple of them need a stronger villain. I know Cyforce has like the KGB, but we haven't sort of seen a consistent guy, a face to a crowd coming at them. Aside from the kids, I don't know.
It could be whoever sent Cy Stalker Thomas against them, but it also might not be. We don't know. Yeah, but there's only been in one issue. It's not exactly like a key villain.
Yeah, if that builds, that'll be good. I'll enjoy that. I think a couple of the others, we don't really, have an antagonist in Kickers or in Merc.
Yeah, Kickers, it could have been the Fist, and Merc, it could have been the guy who like sent the assassins at the baseball game, but then, they weren't, they haven't really been there. So,
yeah, it's an open question if we'll circle back to those guys and some of those issues. So overall, there's a lot of what we've talked about is the theme of the new universe is very different in being not very heroic in the classic sense, being more people just dealing with powers. What would that be like? How would that change their lives? Would they be able to use them to help people? And would they do it if they had the chance? Stuff like that.
I think I put you to the question in one, like, what would you do as well?
Hide.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's like if you've got several levels you have to go through. One is people won't believe you. And then two is you'd be afraid that people would, reject you or use you, I guess. You can imagine there's a couple of characters that can heal you. And so like there was an old man trying to extend his life a few more weeks with one of them. It's like, you can imagine rich people like fighting over, no, I want the heal power person. I'll frame them for murder and stick them in my basement, So if they ever break out, they'll be chased. I don't know. So yeah, there's like I said with the Kickers, if there was like a chance to be heroic and expose these powers, maybe people would get on board with it. But we'll see if that's the direction they're going to go in the new universe. We've got a few more months of all 8 issues coming.
Yeah. Many, many, many more to read.
Awesome. So let's see. We were going to mention our Super Sleuth Summer Sweepstakes. We will announce the winner probably through our social media as it is. So we don't date our podcast a little too much. These things are timeless, man.
Timeless.
But we will remain the part on our website will remain open through season 2. So if you are listening to this, there's still a chance for you to go over and take the quiz. Show off your knowledge.
2054 or something, and then
we're all just communicating through implants or something. Yeah, don't worry about it. All entrants are eligible for prizes. There will be a chance to get a modest sticker or some other little merch that we're trying to put together to entertain you. Hopefully. Any more thoughts?
I think that just about covers it, right? So,
we'll take any questions through social media or email at newuniversepodcast@gmail.com.
That's right, which is also You can find that email on kickersinc.com website, so you don't have to remember it.
Excellent. The website being kickersinc.com.
Kickersinc.com, you say?
Yes.
www.kickersinc.com.
That's the direct way. So if you have a question for us, you can either reach us there, and if you include an address, we'll be happy to send you something. You can hit us up on our Twitter, or Andy's on the Facebook fan club page frequently. And we promise to try to answer any questions we get so far.
Let's get some fan interaction.
Yes, much like the new universe itself, it's time to get some actual people writing in and not just kissing our butts. Come on, guys.
Tell us how terrible we are. I will cry and then talk about it.
No, wait a second. Hey, yeah, Ixnay. You can write Andy if you want to tell him how terrible he is. I'm a very sensitive guy. Anyway. Any more?
I think let's wrap it up.
Alrighty. Thanks for joining us on this little recap issue episode. We will be back in 2 weeks, taking a quick break in the middle here. And we'll start in on the issue number 7s with Starbrand and Spitfire, of course. And on we go through season 2. Have a good week, and we'll see you back at the spinner rack.
All right.